One of the greatest pains in life is realizing that the person who once adored you now feels nothing. There's no explosion, no dramatic ending, just a slow, creeping emptiness where love used to be. One day they look at you with admiration. The next day their eyes hold nothing. This is how love dies. But the truth is, love doesn't die overnight. It decays little by little through actions and behaviors that signal the heart is no longer in it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs." It's a hard truth, but it's a necessary one. If someone has stopped loving you, it's better to see the signs now than to live in denial. Because when you see the truth, you can act, you can decide, you can take back your power. So let's get into it. Here are the 10 things they will do first when their love for you begins to fade. Number 1, they stop prioritizing you. Love is all about being there. If someone loves you, they will find a way to spend time with you, even when they're really busy. An essential component of any fulfilling relationship is the practice of placing each other's needs first. But you'll notice a change as love starts to wane. Out of nowhere, they start making more and more excuses about how they're too busy to get out with you. Not because their lives have gotten more chaotic. Rather, they no longer value you enough to make that room for you. You were their first concern when they first started. All day long, you'd receive considerate texts, calls, and plans that came to you out of the blue. Now you're left to ponder why they appear too busy to even respond to a basic text, much less engage in a meaningful conversation. Maybe they're just going through something. You speculate. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. The trend nevertheless becomes more apparent with time. They no longer value you. Seneca once expressed concern. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Lovers are very careful with the time they have for you, because it is one of the most valuable things we have. When love begins to wane, though, they squander it without thinking twice. They spend so much time on other things, work, friends, and diversions, that you can't help but wonder why they won't put any of that energy into your relationship. You may try to convince yourself that it's temporary at first. Something significant is being worked on by them. Their week has been difficult. Perhaps they are simply too much to handle. However, if you're being completely forthright with yourself, you may see the gap widening. While you patiently await their arrival, you are confronted with the unfortunate reality that the bond you once had is gradually fading. Loving someone means giving your undivided attention. It's not a conscious decision. It remains unquestioned. A person's worth is measured by the worth of what they value, stated Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor. Something is seriously wrong. If the person who used to care about you suddenly prioritizes everything else, it's an indication that their priorities have changed. The way they spend their time and energy tells a different tale than what they say. They're still dedicated to the relationship. The harsh reality is that deeds always reveal more than words. Something has changed if you're always on the edge of your seat, vying for even a fraction of their attention. As with any two-way street, love fades when the commitment between two people weakens. Even more painfully, you deserve to be the center of someone's universe, not just someone's consideration. The most precious commodity we own is time. When someone stops investing it in you, it speaks volumes about your status in their life. What are your options in such a situation? Take note of it. It is what it is. Don't put up with their behavior. Last but not least, remember that no one has ever valued you more than you have, and never settle for second best. No matter how hectic life gets, true love is prioritizing each other. The affection could be fading if that isn't happening, and you should probably take a step back and assess your role in their lives. Number 2, their communication becomes dry and distant. Their initial remarks were filled with enthusiasm, profundity, and warmth. They inquired about your day, made an effort to understand how you were feeling, and shared their hopes and aspirations with you. Feeling heard, understood, and appreciated was a byproduct of the conversational ease and natural flow. They were interested in learning about your life in every way, from the major events to the intimate thoughts that went through your head. But at this very moment, you no longer feel a genuine connection with the person you are conversing with. Instead, it's more like you're chatting with a complete stranger. A brief mechanical hey or generic answer is all that remains in messages. There are times when you don't hear from them at all, and even then it's difficult to elicit more than a few words. An uncomfortable stillness has replaced the fluidity of expression that was there before. They appear disinterested in hearing about your day, your problems, or your successes. Eventually, they will stop inquiring about your innermost ideas, intentions, and emotions. They just quit caring. The ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. All the more reason to talk to one another, listen attentively, and invest in meaningful relationships." In light of this, as affection wanes, people cease to pay attention. The reality, though, is that this kind of withdrawal usually indicates a more fundamental change in the individual. They have devalued the importance of maintaining contact with you. You feel like you're chasing after a specter of a person you once knew. Because no matter how much you attempt to initiate a conversation, they keep pulling away. The worst part is that you're still committed emotionally, hoping things will return to how they were.
You can't expect them to treat you with any respect anymore. They've moved on from the relationship you shared becomes more evasive. The more you try to get their attention, you start to feel even more invisible with each cold, impersonal response. Seneca remarked, "To be able to endure is the strength of the wise. To be able to understand is the strength of the wise." He knew that people drift away from time to time. True love evolves. It takes courage to recognize when someone is emotionally unavailable. Knowing when that happens is a strength. The pain will only persist if you cling to a relationship that is dying.
What are your options in such a situation?
Take note of its nature. Effective communication is the bedrock of a strong relationship. Stop pretending that you're simply going through a rough patch. If you feel like your connection has weakened and your talks have grown distant, understand that this could mean they aren't as invested in you as they once were. Instead of trying to make them talk or listen, prioritize their recovery and then let them go. The harsh reality is that when people quit talking to you, it's like they're telling you everything you need to hear. Number 3, they get annoyed over small things. How you make them laugh, how you eat. They no longer find amusement in the things you say. Instead, they roll their eyes. Even the most charming behaviors can quickly become sources of annoyance. What used to be endearing is now annoying. Their formerly harmless habits are driving them crazy. The way you express yourself verbally, the jokes you tell, or the topics you discuss are all examples of this. But right now, sighs, eye rolls, or harsh comments are all that are elicited. Loss of love causes a loss of patience. Things that were once integral to your identity now serve only to annoy you. Avoiding the things that used to strengthen your bond may make you feel like you're treading on eggshells. You feel like everyone is watching your every move, judging you by your laughter and words. There was a time when you were perfect. You were endearing in part because of your eccentricities, those tiny flaws that made you special. Their laughter would be a response to your jokes. They would welcome your eccentricities and small habits as charming characteristics of your personality. All that changes though when love departs. They take it out on you instead of dealing with their own emotions. To avoid facing the unpleasant reality that their feelings have changed, they resort to annoyance as a protective strategy. Someone wise once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy."
This was Marcus Aurelius. The best approach to handle anger in a relationship is to talk about it, not take it out on the one you care about. But this knowledge disappears as soon as love dies. They act out their frustrations on you rather than confront their increasing emotional estrangement. As if you were being punished for something beyond your control, this leaves you feeling bewildered and saddened. It's crucial to keep in mind that the rage they feel toward you has nothing to do with who you are. It's a sign that they're struggling inside. They are upset because they are ill-equipped to manage their evolving emotions. Rather than face their feelings, they react aggressively, diminishing you and making you feel deserving of their animosity. Take it easy on yourself. It's not your fault. What are your options in such a situation? You should not take it personally when they're angry. Understand that their fury stems from internal struggles they are enduring. Put yourself in their shoes for a moment before reacting angrily. Stay out of the drama. Repairing their sentiments or winning their affection back is not your responsibility. The most effective course of action is to give them room to process their feelings without making you the object of their ill-directed anger. Keep in mind that love isn't accompanied by continual annoyance. When someone loves you, they'll be patient with you, laugh at your jokes, and embrace your eccentricities. When it stops happening, it's time to admit that maybe love isn't as strong as it once was. Number 4, physical intimacy fades. Physical touch is the simplest way to show affection. It's a nonverbal way of showing love, comfort, and intimacy. Soft kisses, tender embraces, and delicate touches are simple ways to show affection. In the beginning, when two people do these things for each other, it builds a bond between them that words can't describe. However, sexual intimacy is frequently among the first aspects to diminish as love begins to deteriorate. The natural intimacy that used to characterize your relationship starts to feel uncomfortable. You find yourself kissing less frequently and hugging less affectionately, as if you're just going through the motions. There's no longer any depth to what was once an expression of love and care. Once a soothing gesture, holding hands now feels awkward, as if you can feel the growing separation between you. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno of Citium, said that true intimacy is more than a mere physical union. It is the melding of two spirits. Shared beliefs, mutual respect, and emotional understanding, in his view, were the foundations of a tie that went beyond the material world and united people. True connection occurs when two people's hearts and brains, not simply their bodies, come together. However, the physical side of a relationship is bound to follow as that bond diminishes. When people experience anxiety or avoidance when they should feel comfortable touching, it changes the way they interact with touch. Ignoring the change may be your initial instinct. Remember, it's only a phase. You reassure yourself, we're both just busy or stressed. To regain the closeness you previously had, you start making excuses. Contrary to popular belief, physical closeness also suffers when emotional intimacy wanes. There is now an emotional and physical barrier between you, replacing the once seamless connection. As Seneca wisely said, the greatest wealth is to live content with little. The same is true in this case. When a relationship's emotional richness diminishes, it becomes challenging to maintain the physical intimacy that was once effortless. When one partner in a relationship doesn't put any effort into making it work, the other side notices and feels the difference. The body picks up on it as well. With less frequent and less genuine touches, and an increase in the difficulty to sustain the same level of affection, a stranger, whose touch is alien, now stands before you, the one you previously treasured in the most basic of ways. Keeping your emotions out of this loss is crucial. A deeper emotional distance indicates a lack of physical intimacy, a personal flaw. Your emotional bond is the bedrock upon which the physical act of intimacy rests. As soon as that groundwork gives way, the bond weakens, shifting from physical touch to words, and finally to physical distance. It's a hard-to-stop process, but the first step toward healing is accepting it. What are your options in such a situation? Physical intimacy is a reflection of emotional distance. Therefore, it's important to notice when it fades. Pay attention to the warning signals, and stop trying to impose affection that doesn't feel real. Rather, focus on how the partnership is doing emotionally. Talk to your spouse honestly about how you feel. Physical intimacy cannot mend a severed emotional tie. If you still believe in salvaging the relationship, you should work on repairing the emotional bond first, rather than trying to buy love with actions. Number 5. They defend their distance instead of closing it. How would they react if you brought up the fact that you two are emotionally distant? Is there an effort to resolve the problem once they listen to you and validate your emotion? Instead, do they become defensive and try to brush off your worries as unfounded? Someone who genuinely values the relationship will listen without judgment, even if they don't know everything. After realizing that something has changed, they will collaborate with you to find a solution. No one shows genuine concern for another person if they avoid talking about sensitive topics. Relationships involve work, talk, and giving and take. However, as their love begins to wane, they are reluctant to face the problem directly, since they are already aware that their feelings have altered. Overcoming the discomfort would require them to face an uncomfortable truth, which they would rather avoid. They withdraw even further, emotionally and physically isolating themselves. They blame you rather than themselves for their lack of interest in talking. You feel responsible for trying to save a relationship that is already in danger. Since they move away, the more you demand clarity. The old adage goes, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. As passion wanes, the other person's perspective on the relationship changes, clouded by their own emotional distance. They start to withdraw, ignoring the suffering they're creating. Since they no longer perceive the benefit in pushing through the agony, instead of caring about finding a solution, their attention has shifted to avoiding the pain of change. For the individual who remains concerned, this is exceedingly infuriating. You wish there was a way to mend things and restore the connection to its previous state. The problem is that you encounter opposition, rather than a willingness to collaborate. The emotional distance widens with each effort to broach the subject of the relationship. What are your options in such a situation? Realize that it's impossible to make someone care. They are clearly not emotionally committed to the relationship anymore if they are more concerned with maintaining their distance than with bringing it close. You should be with someone who will listen, who will confront the problems side by side, and who will try to bridge the gap. Realize that the love you previously had may have faded. If they reject your attempts to draw closer, and instead actively remove themselves from you, giving someone the distance they appear to desire might be difficult, but it's often the best course of action. When one party is unwilling to cooperate, it becomes impossible to find a solution. Stop wasting time attempting to influence their actions, and start focusing on yourself. Realize that occasionally partnerships terminate because one partner has let go. Number 6. They start making plans without you. You used to be a part of everything. They kept you in their thoughts on weekends, vacations, and future endeavors, and you did the same for them. More and more they decide things on their own without you. It might make you feel like an outsider in your own relationship. They act as if they're already free and aimless, ignoring you and all their plans and ambitions. Whether it's a short weekend retreat, a new pastime, or even future goals, you are no longer considered. You find out about their activities after the fact, through a third party or when they casually mention them, leaving you in the dark. It's as if your presence in their future has been erased. Your absence from their lives has already started to take shape in their minds. According to Marcus Aurelius, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. When someone starts to fantasize about a world without you, it's not an idle thought. A change of viewpoint occurs when they start to imagine themselves progressing even without you. It's not uncommon for them to take action. They take their time, but once they emotionally separate from the prospect of a future together, they move quickly to put their plans into motion. They start making more and more of these little innocuous choices on their own. After a while, they stop thinking about you and start enjoying their own life. The worst part is that this usually takes time. It's progressing slowly. It may go unnoticed at first. They simply fail to consider inviting you. You convince yourself maybe they were busy and forgot to mention it. However, the pain of exclusion becomes more apparent as the pattern persists. Now that you're no longer involved in the decision-making process, the plans you once worked on together are moving forward without you.
Experiencing this while still emotionally committed can be rather unsettling. Holding on to the notion that everything will return to normal is a common reaction. The truth, though, is that people's behavior reflects how they feel emotionally about the prospect of a shared future. Their treatment of you going forward will be shaped by how they perceive the love you formerly had, which may no longer exist in their mind.
What are your options in such a situation?
Notice the little change. Don't sit around and hope that they'll include you in their future plans or unexpectedly invite you into their plans. Their emotional checkout is complete if they are already making plans and decisions. Apart from you, stay focused on your own journey. Instead of clinging to the dream of being included again, get over being a victim of other people's decisions and start living your life according to your own terms. Someone may begin to envision a future apart from you when love begins to wane. Although it hurts, it's a chance to think about your future on your own terms, not as a part of someone else's, and to reflect on your personal growth. If someone loves you, they'll see you for who you really are, flaws and all. Their concern is evident in their meticulous attention to detail, which is what truly defines you. When love starts to wane, though, even the smallest things lose their significance. They can't even recall the name of the dish you love, or the tune that makes you happy anymore. They make no effort to understand how you're feeling, or inquire about your day. They can't read your body language, or pick up on your tiny vocal inflections. It's not that they have lost touch with your preferences or emotions. It's just that they have lost interest in remembering. It can be devastating when these little gestures of love are missing. Sharing your day, being enthusiastic about something simple, or inquiring how you're truly feeling, things that used to be a loving routine, suddenly feel non-existent. When you're happy about something little but significant, or when you're sad or worried, they stop paying attention. When the individual who once went to great lengths to comprehend you on an emotional level stops caring, you may find that your world is somewhat more silent and lonely. What Seneca said is true: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. This is true in personal interactions too. When we feel unnoticed by the people we care about, it's easy to dwell on our shortcomings and the things we could have done different. When they don't say anything, we start to doubt our value and wonder if they're just preoccupied or if they've given up on us altogether. In reality, though, it's an indication of a weakening emotional connection. Not forgetting that causes people to ignore the little things. Small touches, inside jokes, and quiet check-ins are the ordinary moments that truly define love, not large gestures or grand announcements. The disappearance of those objects indicates a change in their feelings. Their interest in paying attention to the nuances that make you feel loved has waned. As a result, the connection starts to weaken.
What are your options in such a situation?
Focus on the lack, as well as the presence. Keep in mind that when someone emotionally distances themselves, it shows in their indifference to small things. Keep your distance, and don't try to recreate the spark that was lost. Rather, give your attention to self-care, and find things that make you happy and at ease. When other people stop paying attention to you, it's time to start paying attention to and appreciating yourself again. Love is frequently made meaningful by the little things. Their disappearing betrays a lack of investment in the connection. Now more than ever, keep in mind that no one else's meticulousness determines your value. Number 8. They compare you to others. Beginnings are subtle, almost imperceptible. They gush about their friends being so understanding, or how their colleague is so fun. Their informal conversation about someone they met or spent time with may exaggerate their attractiveness or desirability in comparison to you. It may not seem like an assault at first. I mean, come on, it's only small talk. However, the burden of these comparisons starts to sink in gradually. They make you feel inadequate. The more they brag about how great other people are, there is a reason behind this. It's concerning that they use this tactic to sow doubt in their own head as much as yours. The moment someone begins to judge you based on other people, it's clear that they've moved on. You are no longer perceived as someone they hold in high regard. They aren't interested in you for who you are, but rather in what they perceive as lacking in you. Comparing you to others makes you doubt your value, your role in the relationship, and the certainty of the love that was once there. As your confidence slowly wears down, remember what Seneca expressed: the greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. This is the result of someone starting to compare you to other people. Their idealistic self-image, formed mostly by observing other people, gets in the way of them being fully present with you in the here and now. They stop appreciating the special bond you once had, and start seeking happiness elsewhere, thinking that their life will be better off without you. Their desires shift from the reality of your connection to an idealized version of love. When a loved one starts to compare you to other people, whether it's subtle or obvious, it can be horrifying. You start to question, why am I insufficient? What is it about another person that they find attractive, that they fail to notice in me? This is more about their lack of contentment with their current situation than it is about you, so keep that in mind. A person's attempt to fill a void in their own heart by seeking approval or comparison from outside the relationship is a red flag that they are no longer emotionally committed to you. When our romantic relationships end, we tend to look for ways to fill the emptiness we feel on the inside. That inner conflict is mirrored in this comparison. Because they have moved on, they can no longer perceive you as the source of their happiness. If this were to happen to you, what would you do? Be aware that comparisons hurt everyone involved. Because they are always thinking about other things, they will never take the time to see and value what makes you exceptional. Refrain from letting their doubts or criticisms affect you. Take some time to appreciate yourself and think about what makes you unique. Holding on to someone who isn't giving you their undivided attention isn't worth it. If they can't see those traits in you anymore, love doesn't require perfection. Here, tolerance, camaraderie, and esteem for one another are paramount. If they no longer perceive that quality in you, it's possible that the affection you once shared was based on unrealistic expectations rather than the actual nature of your relation. Number 9. They create emotional walls. You were once a place of refuge for them. They confided in you about everything, from their greatest worries and hopes to their most mundane problems and moments of pure happiness. Conversations used to unfold effortlessly. However, things have changed lately. They've begun to avoid you. You no longer feel close to the person you once knew. Your talks are shallow and mundane. They have stopped confiding in you about their innermost ideas, emotions, and struggles. Weaknesses are fertile ground for love. Two people can let their guard down and show their real selves. In peaceful periods, they can open up about their fears, hurts, and doubts because of the trust they have in one another. However, if someone stops letting you into their life, it's a sure sign that they've started to shut down emotionally. They're not emotionally distant because they can't trust you anymore, but because they refuse to let you in. It takes time for the walls they construct to become apparent. Less sharing, less intimacy, that's where they start. For a while you could think they're simply going through a tough period, or that they simply need some space. However, it is not bravery that causes someone to construct emotional barriers. Rather, it's the avoidance of confronting the reality that their feelings have evolved. They isolate themselves rather than face their emotional transformation. The gap widens between you as they pull away. Feeling like an outsider in a place you previously shared so intimately might be one of the most difficult aspects of a fading relationship. The inability to communicate is only one of the reasons they stop letting you in. It's about being cut off from someone. The emotional connection that used to make you feel loved, listened to, and understood is crumbling. It is exceedingly challenging to re-establish such a connection once it has been broken.
What are your options in such a situation?
Emotional walls are a sign of emotional distance, not merely personal hardship. If someone has decided to cut you out of their life, it shows in their unwillingness to tell you what's really going on inside. Instead of trying to coerce them into opening up, offer them the room they desire while simultaneously accepting the possibility that it will be long-lasting. You can't make someone feel safe enough to be vulnerable with you or love you the way you used to. The relationship has changed drastically. If they keep putting up emotional barriers, focus on your own mental and emotional well-being. Love isn't something you do alone. Consider if this connection is beneficial to your well-being. If they no longer want to be open, they just don't care to fix it. Finally, the most agonizing sign, when one partner stops caring about the relationship, it's a sign that they're losing interest. Angry arguments and sincere discussions about what went wrong have ended. There have been zero attempts to mend fences or bridge the gap that has grown between you. Rather, they just lose interest and don't bother to debate, repair, or even attempt anymore. Disagreements are inevitable in any relationship, but they aren't indicators of failure so much as they are of investment. Disagreements provide an opportunity for individuals to learn from one another and progress as a unit. Careful listeners will inquire, how can we fix this? They will seek answers, talk about their problems, and attempt to restore what has been destroyed. However, that vitality diminishes after love has waned. They give up. They thoughtlessly allow things to break instead of working through the issues or taking any sort of action. They allowed the space to widen, the stillness to persist, and the pain to deepen. The capitulation is gradual because they've already decided it's over. They don't think it's worth trying to mend what's broken. As Epictetus wisely put it, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. However, in this particular situation, it becomes apparent when someone stops responding when they cease to fight for the relationship. They have emotionally separated themselves. They've decided it's not worth attempting to salvage the relationship any longer. The partnership has turned into a zero-sum game. At this stage, no matter how much you care or how much you want to help, it will be pointless if they have already given up. When they finally stop bickering, you know they no longer value you. They still care about you, but they aren't willing to battle for the love you shared in the past.
What are your options in such a situation?
Recognize and accept the truth of the matter. Relationships require work from both partners. As unpleasant as it may be, it is time to let go if the other person is no longer interested in fixing the problem. When someone has emotionally checked out, it's pointless to try to make them care or fight for the connection. Put your energy into getting well and into developing yourself. For both parties involved, letting go might be the most selfless act of all. You know it's time to put your own needs first and move on when the other person stops making an effort to keep the connection alive. A person's feelings towards you are beyond your control.
How you react, though, is under your power. Select yourself if you find that no one else is interested in you anymore. It is true what Epictetus said, freedom is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Stay detached from those who have already let go of you. Please subscribe if you found this video helpful. Have you ever seen these signs? Let's discuss them in the comments. Just tell me. In order to progress, let's support one another.